Good afternoon. This is the Board of Appeals, Town of Hempstead, May 17th, 2023, 2 p.m. meeting. Mr. Chairman, do you have any opening remarks?
I do. So, for those of you who have not appeared before us before, the following protocols will be followed. First, we will take requests for adjournments. Next, we will take cases sometimes in order, sometimes out of order, depending on the exigencies of the situation. And when we hear the cases, the applicant will make their opening remarks, present their case. That will be limited to about 1 minute and 10 seconds, not really. Then we will have the opponent speak. That will be limited to 1 minute and 10 seconds. Only kidding. And finally, we will have we will give the opportunity of the applicant to respond to any objections voiced by the opposition. All right? So, Patrick, time limits do not apply. I'm only kidding, folks.
Mr. Chairman, we have an application for adjournment due to defective notice. Case 31423, near Westbury. Lawrence and Anne Marie Perez. Variance, front yard average setback, maintain garage conversion to living space, attached to dwelling, also known as 163 Friends Lane.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Ms. Diana Laspisa, who was the representative on this matter, came in for the 9:30 calendar. She was hoping she'd be able to adjourn it at that time. However, we have to call it on that time. She did send a letter requesting, she had a conflict. She couldn't make it here at 2 p.m. She sent a letter requesting an adjournment to June 14th in absentia, if that would be agreeable to the board.
Is there anybody here on that case? Anybody in opposition? All right, June 14th. What time?
2 p.m.
Okay. Next case,
Next, we have an application for adjournment, 318 through 319 Inwood, J and A Realty LLC. Use variance to construct one-story warehouse with office not permitted in Res C district. Special exception to park in Res C district and to park in front yard with variances for side yard and rear yard. Install 6-foot-high fence forward of the building, formerly known as 58 Zabit Street.
Good afternoon, Dominic Minerva and D'Agostino, 107
Could you
South.
speak into the microphone?
Good afternoon. Is there anyone else in opposition to this application? Anyone else here interested in this application? Go ahead, Mr. Minerva.
Okay, so I'm requesting an adjournment. The applicant is amending the plan for the proposed building and requesting an adjournment to August, so we have time to get the revised plan in and have it re-reviewed by the building department and have the denials updated.
Patrick?
We spoke earlier, July 26th.
I think you requested August.
I
Did you
can-
not,
Oh,
Mr.
you want August?
Minerva?
I'm sorry.
If you have an August date, I think, give me a little more
We
time.
can do August. August 9th or 23rd, which?
9th is fine.
August 9th?
2:30 p.m.,
2 o'clock p.m.
2 o'clock.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. Yes.
Any other
We have
requests
no
for an
other-
adjournment? None.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to call an item out of order. We're going to call case 31723, Roosevelt, New York Land Development 2 Corp., variances subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front yard, to front setback line, lot area occupied, side yards aggregate, construct dwelling, south side of Underhill Avenue, 75 feet west of Stevens Street.
Yes, for the applicant, we on? We good with sound? For the applicant, Robert W. O'Brien, 877 North Corona Avenue, North Valley Stream, New York.
James Bianco, New York Land Development, 1136 Arlington Avenue, Franklin Square.
Jed Nelson, real estate appraiser, 1380 Belmore Avenue, Belmore, New York.
We seem to have quite a few people signed in on this application, all of whom seem to be in favor of it.
Yes.
Are there any people who are not in favor of it?
I hope not, but
Okay, go ahead, Mr. O'Brien.
thank you very much, Chair. Today I represent the applicant, New York Land Development 2 Corp., with respect to the instant application for a one-lot subdivision in the hamlet of Roosevelt, and I'll get to the one-lot and subdivision because it seems to be an oxymoron, because it would seem to be that the board will be very interested in it. With me here today, he's introduced himself on the record, is our real estate expert, Jed Nelson, who's going to testify regarding the nature and character of the area and that the benefit of the application to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the surrounding community. Also, immediately to my left is James Bianco, the applicant's president, to answer any questions regarding the actual design and construction of the property. The property that is the subject of this application is on the south side of Underhill Avenue in the hamlet of Roosevelt, approximately 75 feet west of Stevens Street. And for the record, it's known on the Nassau County tax lot as Section 55, Block 319, and Lot 1102. The parcel as it currently exists is a perfect rectangle, 25 feet of frontage on Underhill Avenue, 100 feet of depth on each side, and a rear property line of 25 feet. It has an overall area of 2,500 square feet. The applicant proposes subdividing the property as per the zoning requirement and then constructing a new one-family dwelling on the property. As I said, the thing that's probably jumped out to everybody here is that there are no similarly sized undersized lots on the radius map. In
More
fact,
importantly, what jumps out to me is where's it subdivided from?
we're going to,
Okay.
we're well ready for it.
I don't want to take.
I don't want to be condescending and saying it's an excellent question, but it is an excellent question.
Thank you.
As you will note, the smallest properties in the general area all have at least 50 feet of frontage and 5,000 square feet of area. A little bit of background. My client obtained title to the subject property by a deed from L&L Associates, a well-known tax lien purchaser in Nassau County, which had obtained a tax deed thereto from the Nassau County Treasurer. From what I can gather from the chain of title, the parcel was once part of, the adjoining property to the east, once part of the adjoining parcel to the west, and once part of the adjoining property to the rear. A logical conclusion as to why it was lost in taxes is very simple. There was a separate tax bill, and those taxes weren't paid because of financial aspects or other aspects involving the adjoining properties. For the record, the adjoining parcel, if you drive down the block, it looks like it's part of the property immediately to the west. There's the driveway separates it, and you would think, but it's not.
The record, just so we have an accurate record.
Sure. The lot number of the subject is 1102.
Right.
The property that if you drove down the street and thought it was a part of would be the Sanders residence, which is 1103 and 1104, which I understand is in foreclosure. Mr. Nelson has done a little bit more work on that, and he'll tell you a little bit more of the history.
Let's say I'm not driving down a block. What was 1102 part of?
1102 at different times was part of, I believe, 1103 and 1104. At one time before that, I believe it was 1127 and 1128, and we believe it might have been part of 1101, 1099 through 1101 because of something I'm going to bring to the board's attention.
I didn't hear that. Because of what?
We believe it's part of the corner lot, where you see the Beltran Martinez lot. And if, I'll digress at this point. Ms. Bianco did a little bit of research, so I'll give him the credit. Back in 1960, there was a BZA case 573, which proposed building a new home on lots 1101 and 1102, which would lead me to believe that there may have been a companion application for 1099 and 1100. Okay, I have, if I can submit as applicants, one, building department records, or zoning records indicating that case, and it has a case number, and it has a plot plan on it indicating that the corner property is 50 by 100, and that the property that a grant was given for was also 50 by 100, which would mean that 1099 and 1100 were one lot grouping, and 1101 and 1102 were another lot grouping at that time. Those, from what we know, those permits, although it was granted by the board, those permits were never picked up, and at some point, the owners of 1099 and 1101 expanded their house onto the property, so
Onto which property?
into 11, the house as it existed was on 1099 and 1100, or the lot, and somehow they acquired 1101, or had 1101, and that was a proposed subdivision.
Mr. O'Brien,
Back
can
then.
I just tell you one thing that I was confused by the fact that we didn't have the other one, because I'm easily confused. And so I tried to look into the new computer system, and I'm not great at it. So I used the address on the radius map of 36 Underhill Avenue, which is 1103, 1104 on this,
Right.
So when we looked up 36 Underhill Avenue to look at the permits, that address, maybe incorrectly, but on the computer system, that address was associated with 1102, right? So the permit number, you don't need it, but 610, 54, 56. Then I looked up that with some assistance, okay? And that was a 50 by 100, which led me to believe that the property from which you wish to carve this was just its own thing. But then that was a 50 by 100 for 101, 102, which is what I think you were referencing earlier.
Right,
So the confusion to me is great.
and the confusion, to a certain extent, to us is great. You know, what we know is that there was a separate tax bill for 1102,
Right.
that the property was lost, and now one of two things will happen with the property. Either a new home will be built on it, or it'll be abandoned, and people in the neighborhood will talk about the benefits to the community.
Right.
Much better than I can.
So I just want to tell you one thing so you can address it.
All right.
So my concern was we're being asked to create a building lot. You don't have to laugh because
No, I'm not laughing. I'm nodding because I understand.
That we're being
No.
asked to create a building lot in a place where presumably it's already on the, and we're being asked to create it separate from another lot. So obviously, is the property from which we'll carve it, I know the county keeps them separate in this instance.
If you go
In
on the
this
assessor's website, let us just say there were a number of errors.
Okay, but leaving aside the county, for me, what the town thinks are building lots is what matters. So, when I tried to look up to see that I assumed initially we have a one case subdivision because whatever we're carving it off of is an as-of-right lot. That's what I assumed. When I looked it up, there seems to be a lot of muddy water. So all I want to know, I saw the title report, I get that part of the lawyer stuff, but my concern is, what does the town think are building lots? And is anything we're being asked to use in the creation of a building lot part of what the town thinks is a different building lot?
Well,
That's what I want.
In the end, if you go back to, the least common denominator, which to me is title, okay? My client purchased the property and has a deed for the property, and the deed of record says that it is, because it's a corporation, that's why I use the word it is the owner of this lot.
Right,
to
but
the-
people
to-
can
to
buy-
the exclusion of all others.
Right, but I know you know, Mr. O'Brien. I can buy a lot of lots here and legally own them, and they can be not merged and everything else, but the town defines the building lots. If I want to buy 4 pieces of property next to one another, but there's a piece of, and I think I have a legal building lot here, but it's merged with the other, be it right or wrong, by the town's assessment, it's merged with the other, then I can't carve it off unless they get a lesser lot. You know what I'm saying? So I get the title search, I get the lawyer
Well-
part of it,
well-
and who owns it legally, but I'm talking about creating building lots or not.
Well,
I just wanna
obviously,
know that.
obviously, from what I handed into the board, this was in common ownership with 1099, and that property, as it remains, will be 75 by 100. I would also point out to you, if you, the 70 on the corner, but if, at least at the time of that application, Mr. Pellegrini, that I submitted the paperwork on, the point I was going to make is that if that application was taken to it at the fullest, and that would have meant that a house would have been on, house number 1 would have been on 1099 and 1100, house number 2 would have been on 1101 and 1102. In the end, you would have had 2 homes on 88,000 square feet. If the board is to grant this application, you're going to have 2 homes on 8,000 square feet. I said 75, yeah, right, 75, I'm sorry, 100 by 100. My bad, I said 10,000, it should be 10,000 square feet.
So you think that 1102 was originally part of 1099, 1100, 1101?
It was, or they were contract vendees, Mr. Pellegrini. That case that I submitted the paperwork on speaks for itself, because if you see, it says the property is 50 feet from the corner. 50 feet from the corner would mean it would be, and it was 50 by 100 width. It would necessarily mean that 1101 and 1102 were part of that application at the time, and by analysis, just logical conclusion, that 1099 and 1100 were being left behind as a separate building lot.
Okay, let me go a different route. Is there a dwelling on 1101, 1100, and 1099?
Yes.
And
Wait a minute.
what does the certificate of occupancy say the lot area
Lot size.
is? Okay. And when was that house built?
That house was built subject to a variance granted in 1956.
What was that
Case
application for, the variance?
Okay, that application was for the southwest corner of Underhill and Stevens, 50 by 100, which was granted. Okay, the property that we were discussing, 1101 and 1102, was granted a variance in 1961 to construct a one-family house. Through evolution, that never materialized. So the property at the southwest corner then expanded their house to now move on to lot 1101.
So there's an,
Leaving 1102 by itself.
so that was technically an illegal subdivision?
I don't want to get into that, but
Well, I do.
Well, no.
Was a permit granted to build on the newly consolidated 1101, 1099,
Yes.
1100, 1101? That 75 by 100, was a permit issued to build on that?
I tried
Yes
to
or no
research
question?
those, and I was not able to come up with permits that were ever issued on those properties.
So in your professional opinion,
Go ahead.
was a permit ever issued by the town of Hempstead to build on the, we're gonna call the lot comprised of 1099, 1100, and 1101? Yes or no?
The permit, I believe, was for 1099 and 1100.
So there was a permit to build on 50 by 100.
Correct.
Was a CO ever issued?
I wasn't able to research that.
What was the permit for and when was it issued? Roughly?
One-family residential house,
What year approximately?
1957.
So
Which
before, it
excludes 1101.
before it was included in the other application,
Correct.
was a structure built?
Yes.
Was
Oh,
it
wait, I'm sorry, was the structure built on which lot?
on the lot? which
1099 and 1100.
Yes.
Did it in any way, when you look back at the permit for that structure, does it say they just own a 50 by 100 or a 75 by 100?
Originally, it was on a 50 by 100. It has since been expanded. It was built as a Cape Cod, facing onto Stevens. It has now been expanded to incorporate 1101. I don't know if it has a C of O for it.
Do you know when it was expanded to incorporate that?
Why? Why don't you know?
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm getting anxious here.
Wasn't able to do that research work.
But it could be available, most likely is available, you just didn't do it.
It
Okay.
could be available.
So the current owner of record for 1099 and
House number?
1100.
40.
And
Just tell me
1101.
the name of that person.
Just going off of,
House number,
Beltran.
yeah.
radius
It could be
map, yes,
Stevens, though, because
Beltran
it said
and
it's
Martinez.
Stevens.
Okay, do you know if Beltran and Martinez are also the owner of record? I assume they are, because it's on my radius map of 1101.
Tell you in a moment. Yes. Tell you in a moment.
Looks like it.
Well, the county records, if you pull it off of the website, does include 1099 through 1101 as the ownership under Beltran.
Okay, have you visited the property?
Yes,
Does it appear to you that 1101 is being used in conjunction with the other premises?
100%, yes. There has been a large two-story extension added to the rear, and I do have photographs of it, that would not permit it to be anything other than including 1101.
So
Does that extension encroach on 1101?
Yes,
So,
And there is a CO for that?
I don't know.
No.
so right now, 1099 through 1101, for all intents and purposes, is owned by the same people, has a large enough structure on it, and is being used. But the only thing we don't know is whether the town considers that to be part of it.
Correct. County records, when I pull it out of the assessment data, does state that that property is a 75 by 100, thereby including lot 1101.
So other than, how could you miss checking the town if everything else
Yeah.
says that's with it? Just, okay.
What do you mean?
But everything about what we're doing here says 1099, 1100, 1101 are in the same group. But we just don't know if the town considers that the building lot, right?
I agree, yes, I
Okay.
don't know.
So do you also, can you do a similar analysis for 1103 and 1104?
Yes.
Okay, please.
Go ahead.
If I may, because I think the board is getting into Mr. Nelson's presentation, maybe it'd be a good time for me to turn it over to him, and you can question him, and I'll be happy to come back.
I apologize.
I don't mean to step on your toes. Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, hi, my name is Jed Nelson. I am a real estate appraiser, part of Burt Nelson Associates, Inc. at 1380 Belmore Avenue, Belmore, New York. I have, maybe it'll be a good time to provide my packet of photographs.
Mr. Nelson, have you
yeah.
been qualified by this board as a real estate expert before?
Yes, I have.
And have your qualifications changed since the last time you were qualified by the board?
No, Mr. Chairman,
Then
it
we
has
will
not.
allow you to testify as a real estate expert. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have on May 9th, at approximately 11 a.m. in the morning, visited the site, the neighborhood. I've taken photographs of the subject property as well as the adjoining properties. I'd like to submit this packet of photographs. They accurately depict the subject neighborhood and the subject property. In addition to that, there are copies of variances that were approved in the immediate area, including the first two, which are the properties we were just discussing, lots 1099 and 1100, as well as 1101 and 1102.
Did you take those photographs yourself?
I did.
Okay.
And Mr. Nelson, in addition to variances approved for these relevant lots, did you include any other information like permits, overtime, et cetera, for these lots?
I did not include permits, but I do have copies of the variances that were granted.
Okay, and that would be to the surrounding community and these lots also?
Yes.
I'm still confused about how.
No, I understand. I hope by when we're done, we can get to the bottom of this. In addition to that, I have prepared a radius map that bears a legend, different colors. It outlines the subject property as well as other substandard lots in the neighborhood. It should be noted that approximately 100 feet east of the subject property is a public school that takes up the entire street front from Stevens to, I believe, St. Francis on the south side of Underhill Avenue. If I may continue. On the south, the subject property is located on the south side of Underhill Avenue, 75 feet west of Stevens Street in the unincorporated hamlet of Roosevelt, part of the town of Hempstead, Nassau County, New York. It's designated as Section 55, Block 319, Lot 1102 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. The parcel is presently zoned Residence B by the town of Hempstead Building Department. The subject property is an interesting piece in that it maintains 25 feet of street frontage along Underhill Avenue with depths of 100 feet, containing a total of 2,500 square feet in total land area. The property is a standalone, not currently part of any abutting lot. It appears that the property was apportioned back in 1962 and has remained vacant ever since. A search of the Board of Zoning Appeal records did not reveal any attempts or submitted variances filed for the property. I should say permits filed for the property. The neighborhood is developed with a variety of homes that range in an age from the early 1930s to the mid-1960s, with some newer homes scattered throughout the neighborhood. The home directly across the street from the subject property was built in 1920 and is a one-story ranch with approximately 1,000 square feet in total living area. The house abutting the subject property to the west is a Cape Cod-style dwelling built circa 1932. It last sold July 25th of 2017 for $355,000 after a foreclosure that took place in 2016. In April of 2018, another foreclosure began, and my understanding is the house is now vacant as the foreclosure has been completed. I'm assuming it'll be boarded up shortly. Additionally, the home backing the subject property, and that would be the Dombeck residence at lots 1127 and 1128, has been foreclosed on and is now boarded up. That would be known as 19 Bennett Avenue. That foreclosure was pursuant to a lis pendens that was filed August 15th of 2022. In addition to these vacant and some boarded-up homes, there are 3 vacant lots shown on the radius map, one of which is owned by the town of Hempstead, all of which are located within a 200-foot radius of the subject property and the public school. As indicated earlier, the public school is located on the south side of Underhill Avenue between Stevens Street and St. Francis Street. My professional opinion, there should be a concern for the school children and the community some of the vacant land in the area have become a dumping ground for landscapers, and other properties are overgrown with brush and may soon attract rodents. And if it pleases the board, I have taken pictures of some of the, I don't know if they're abandoned lots, but they are lots that have, that are 25 by 100, that does not appear to have much ownership.
How close are they roughly to the subject property?
Okay, the one that I'm showing you is on Frederick, which is just north of Gormley, approximately 3 to 4 blocks away. In addition to this picture, on the radius map, you'll note on Gormley, lot 980 is a 25 by 100 lot, not part of either abutting properties. Also, on the north side of Bennett, just east of Babylon Turnpike, you'll see on the radius map lot 1131, that is vacant. Also, right on the corner of Bennett Avenue and Babylon Turnpike, where it states Section 55, Block 319, is a vacant lot owned by the town of Hempstead.
Wait, is that 1214 and 1215? Which side of the?
Okay,
Bennett
at
Babylon?
the northeast corner of Bennett Avenue and Babylon Turnpike is a vacant piece owned by the town of Hempstead.
Does your client own any of the other 980 or 1131?
No. Jim? No.
Do you know the status of them?
They're sitting
Are they in
vacant.
foreclosure, are they owned?
No, they're owned. They're
Do you
owned.
know if they're like in foreclosure status or anything?
I don't know. There is no list pendants posted on the assessor's website or MLS. What piece you're looking at there is located on Frederick, which is approximately 2 blocks north or 3 blocks north of Underhill. And that is a piece that sits at 25 by 100, sits vacant. You can see how it's become an eyesore for the neighborhood. There's a substantial amount of garbage on the property. It's going to take a major cleanup, and in hopes one day it'll become a performing property.
Does your client own this one?
Mr. Pellegrini?
I'm still a little, very confused as to how anyone thinks that we should grant a 25 by 100, and we don't know where it came from.
Okay,
But that's
if
all
I
right.
can,
It's just, you just read my face, you
no,
asked for
I understand.
comment.
Is the application a good one? When you look at it for a 25, no, it's not. But if you look at the benefit to the community, it is a home run. It is a win-win for the neighborhood, for the neighbors, for the community, for the district, especially for the school.
Well, you know, that the town has the right to, sanitation department does go in there and clean up properties and put the lien on the,
I understand
on the
that,
property
and
owners, so.
But the pictures I show you, that's been 30 years in existence.
And Mr. Pellegrini, just one thing to add to that is, yes, the town has the right to do it, but before the town does it, it has to happen, which is not a good thing. The best cases you get are the ones you never get
I
because it
think we
doesn't
could-
happen.
I think we could probably, on this side, expedite it to make sure that it's cleaned up.
He makes a point.
And I think, you know, and we do have some good people from the community who'd like to speak, so when Ms. Nelson's done, I think they can tell us a little bit more about the area than either of us can.
Mr. Nelson, you mentioned that property 980, the 25 by 100 on Gormley. I'm looking at Google Maps, and it looks as if the house next door, which is 979 and 978, have that all fenced in.
Correct. But that doesn't mean it owns it. It's very
Well,
similar
they
to the
have a
piece,
right
it's very
to it.
similar to the piece that we were discussing right here, whereas lots 1103 and 1104 have 1102 fenced in, has been using it, but doesn't own it.
Not yet.
Not
well, the house is in foreclosure, the people have moved out, so I'm not sure who's, who's going to step up to buy it, and perhaps they should have bought it a long time ago. I'm sorry?
Sanders?
Yes. And
And
upon my
excuse me.
inspection of the property in the neighborhood, it appears that one is vacant, and they have moved out.
And Beltran, is that a two-family?
I do not believe so. I mean, I have no records of saying that it is a two-family. No. You will see the picture, I believe one of the first picture or the third picture in my booklet
I just
shows.
see it on Nassau Assessment, that it's a two-family
It says on Nassau,
assessment.
really? I have no records of it being a two-family, and I'm... No, that's okay. Where were we?
You know, those, a lot of times, you'll see two families on there, mother-daughter, or illegal two families. At one time, the assessment department was going out and assessing homes based upon their use and not based upon CO. So that if I think most of us have heard of people who've rented out garages, basements, attics, sunrooms, and having illegal multiple dwellings. And the assessment department, if I remember about 15, 20 years ago, was making a special effort to go out and assess those properties. Regardless of legality, the assessment was based on use. I've even seen mother-daughters as two families.
If I may, please. If I may continue, I have a copy of the old assessment card for Lot 1102, and that shows that this property was apportioned in 1962. It shows that the lot is a 25 by 100 with no improvements thereon. Like this. It was apportioned from 1103, 1102, it was apportioned from 1103 and 1104.
So it obviously was in common ownership at that point.
In 1960, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. You know the standards that the board has to apply in
Yes.
267B. What's the area character? How can you,
I'm gonna get into it. And
aside from me being still confused how this 25 by 100 came into existence, let's set that aside for a minute, because I'm still not convinced that that's properly before the board, that the adjoining, either one, and I'm not sure, might have to come before the board as a subdivision, because they may have illegally subdivided it, and if they did that, they're not allowed to have left a undersized parcel behind. So describe to me, if you will, with council's approval, how this is now within the area character. You could go 200 feet, it's your case.
oh, I understand.
Yes. He needs a microphone.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
If I may. So, as I started my presentation, you know, when we start talking about the detriment to the community, generally we're thinking from a zoning standpoint of substandard lots and the number of substandard sized lots in the area. The detriment to the community is much different here. The detriment to the community, if this isn't granted, is that this runs the risk of becoming a dumping ground, a hangout, a place where illegal activities go on, a block from a school.
Well,
And
at this point, that's New York Land Development Two's corporation's issue. That's his problem.
But, again, you asked me
Yes, I
the benefit to
understand.
the applicant is always money. No question about it. And he will make money building a house here. And Mr. Nelson will do that as part of the presentation. Also, trying to just zero in on timing, I gave the board before part of the paperwork from that 1960 case. I actually, Mr. Bianco was able to produce a survey showing, at least at that time, which would be 2 years before Mr. Nelson indicated about this lot 102 being owned in conjunction with, 1102 with 1103 and 1104, that the proposal was 1101 and 1102 were going to be, that was the application for the variance that was granted. So if doing a little bit of detective work, it would seem that somewhere between 1960 and 1962, 1101 was sold off to the Beltran Martinez property.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you were looking to zero in on dates, and I wanted to give you the dates with the survey.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
or Mr. Nelson, whoever's appropriate. So 1102, I get that 1103 and 1104 is in foreclosure.
Yeah.
And that they were previously using 1102 as incorrectly as part of their premises.
And not paying taxes.
Well, that was
Not
actually
paying the
questions.
taxes, right.
How long have the taxes on 1102 not been paid, if we know?
I have to go back and look at it.
Prior to the time that Mr. Bianco bought his
I
corporation.
think it was 2008.
So who was
was
paying
paying?
the taxes? Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, go ahead.
Who was paying the taxes on that property up until that time, if we know?
You're talking about 1102?
Yep.
Yes.
Nobody. No, who was
Before
paying
that-
prior to that?
Right.
Yeah.
I would assume the homeowner.
Which
1103 and
homeowner?
1104. Right. That would be an assumption, that it'd be
No, no, I
1103.
didn't hear, I'm
Through a
sorry.
mortgage.
Pardon me?
If the owner of the Sanders property, makes it easier by name.
Was it
So
the
the
Sanders
people
or you
who
guess?
enclosed it and were using it were paying on the taxes on it,
You,
up till '08? and
you
do
would,
we know-
Mr. D'Amato, you would assume it.
Oh, I didn't, I thought that you said it.
I would assume that they were paying, because I believe they
Do
were the
we know
ones who
if the
lost it.
taxes were actually paid on it?
They weren't paid before then, but that's when the tax lien goes back to. That's a good question, because newer tax liens cut off older tax liens, and there very well may have been older ones that were cut off, if I understand tax lien foreclosure
Well,
right.
If the taxes have not been paid on it since the 1960 or whatever, when they, I gotta imagine the county would have figured that out between 60 years.
Don't, when you say, what happens, tax liens can sit out there forever.
Forever.
No, I didn't mean the tax, oh, okay.
So put it this way, if you don't pay your taxes, and this is 2023, 40 years from now, you may find out that nobody has paid the taxes in that period of time, and nobody has taken a tax deed.
Well,
Maybe
do
it's,
we know who was getting the tax bill for it?
that is a good question. The tax bill is sent to the person who asked for it, from the receiver of taxes.
No.
Yeah.
Whoever has going to pay the tax, it could be the mortgage company, generally they.
And what you get at a closing is that you fill out a form when you're the buyer, and for the mortgage lender that says, please send the tax bills to my
Sure.
lender. So if that's never done, there could be a comedy of errors all along the way. The logic would tell you that it was probably part of the Sanders, and taxes were being paid by the Sanders people, but to say that with a certainty, I don't think any of us can say that.
So where do we go from here?
Can I let Mr. Nelson? Thank you, Mr. Pellegrini. Yes, you can have your
Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to finish my testimony. The boarded-up homes run a risk for being broken into, damaged, and even worse, a hangout or boarders beginning to live in there.
So no, but this is an empty lot, so that doesn't apply.
That is correct.
Thank you.
The application before this board, as I know, is not a great one, but it certainly offers a very good solution so another property will not become abandoned and a problem for the neighbors or the community. It offers a very real solution for a necessary shortage of housing in this area and a good opportunity to turn a non-performing parcel of land into a viable development which only stands to help and protect the community, the school children's, the neighbors, and the neighborhood. In my professional opinion, the fact that someone is willing to develop the property, as risky as it is, and help the community, as this application will do, says a lot. Being that this property has been sitting like this since the 1960s, and nobody has really done anything with it. The benefit to the community and the district, the neighborhood, weighs heavily against the risks to the applicant, certainly indicates that this is a caring individual, outweighs any monetary benefit which may be achieved by this project. We all know who the developer is, and we know that this is not a home run, so we can only assume he is doing it for the community and for the desire to assist the neighbors.
What is the economic benefit? I didn't hear that
I
testimony.
haven't got to that yet, but I will.
Okay, because you mentioned it's an economic benefit.
Just to cover a little of housekeeping, within a 100-foot radius of the subject property, there are 11 developed lots. 9 of the 11, or 82%, are substandard in size and street frontage of what is required in the Residence B zoning district.
So this could have been an elderly developed community when 50 by 100 was the standard for Residence B.
Could have, yes.
Okay.
Within the 200-foot radius, there are 28 total developed lots. 21 of the 28, or 75%, are substandard in street frontage and size based on the Residence B zoning district. The hardship here with the subject property has not been self-created. I'm not sure as to why this property was apportioned back in 1962 and why it has remained like this for the past 60-plus years until the property was lost for non-payment of real estate taxes. But the sad fact is, it did happen, and the problem does exist today. Here is a wonderful opportunity to eliminate any further problems with this piece of property, and stands only to benefit the neighbors, the neighborhood, and the community, as well as the town of Hempstead and Nassau County, by putting this back onto the tax rolls as a performing property. To me, this is a win-win situation for everyone involved. In my professional opinion, the proposed application, if granted, will not produce an undesirable change to the characteristics of this neighborhood, and further offers a good solution to alleviate any future problems. In the packet of photographs I submitted earlier, towards the end, are approximately 25 or 28 variances which were granted for substandard parcels throughout this neighborhood. It's a great question. There are none.
Okay,
We know that.
thank you.
Okay. Thereby demonstrating that this neighborhood, thereby demonstrating that no new precedence is being set for this, by this application. Yes, I agree, there are no 25s by 100s that have achieved or received any variances, but there are a substantial amount of 50 by 100s and a substantial amount of variances that were granted. The granting of the requested variance will not adversely affect the existing property values, nor will it have any adverse effect on the marketability of any of the existing homes. It will not have any adverse effect on the quiet enjoyment of any of the nearby properties or property ownership. All utilities are readily available on Underhill Avenue, including electric, water, sewer service, cable service, etc. Parking for the subject property will be made available by on-site 2-car paved parking pad in the front of the home. Existing homes in this area sell between a low of $250,000 to a high of over $700,000. Anticipated sales price of the proposed application will be in the high $500s to low $600,000. Excuse me. I didn't invite him. Certainly towards the higher end of the value range for the neighborhood, thereby helping to support the neighborhood aesthetics, prices, and overall appeal. In my professional opinion, the proposed application makes good sense, offers a good solution for developing a currently non-performing property by improving it and not allowing it to become another dumping ground for the community that risks the safety and health of the nearby neighbors and the most important, the school children that attend the school down the block.
So what is the value, or estimated value of this house, should the board grant this?
I estimate it to be in the high 500s to low 600s. $600,000.
600 on a 25 by 100.
Yes, if you want, I do have pictures of similar homes that were developed on 25-foot wide properties by this applicant that shows a very, a very, very nice home, a lovely home. It was built on a 25 by 100, I believe it was in Elmont, Uniondale, and it fits nicely into the community. Mr. Pellegrini, I'm not trying to force feed this board that this is a great application, because by no means is it. But it certainly alleviates or offers a solution to a problem that will arise, and I assure you it will arise in the future.
What's the problem?
The problem is a dumping ground, a non-performing property on the tax rolls that nobody's going to pay for, that the town of Hempstead is going to probably acquire sometime down the line, and yes, offer a building permit to maybe a non-for-profit organization, or maybe a low-income housing. We're trying to nip that in the bud, and that could be 20 years from now. So you're going to have a property that becomes a dumping ground 100 feet away from the school. Honestly, in my professional opinion, and I've been doing this 40 years, this is a win-win for everybody.
Thank you.
If I may, before I close, there are a number of people who took the time to come down here today of their own volition, so Mr. Chair, if it's, okay. If maybe you have the sign-in sheet, Chair, maybe you want to call them by name? You have 'em? Okay.
You want us to call him out?
At your discretion, Chair.
Andrew Barnett. Andrew Barnett. Come forward, please.
Actually, Mr. Owen, do we swear them all? You want to swear them all together? Everyone who wishes, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Everybody who wishes to speak on this case, just stand, raise your right hand. You swear. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Amen.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Barnett. I live in Roosevelt.
What is your address, sir?
My address is 15 Rose Avenue,
And how far is your house from this piece of property?
less than a half a mile.
Go ahead. What
I
would you like
I
to say?
transverse the community quite a bit. I do a lot of things in and out of that school, and in the immediate community of that school, what the gentleman mentioned, within 200 feet, there are a lot of vacant and derelict properties, in spite of the fact that this seems like a challenge. I would rather see, due to housing shortages, I'd rather see improvements in the community opposed to abandonment. Whatever my input is, I hope it goes in the proper direction. That's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Esmeen Marist? Am I mispronouncing it? I apologize. Well, I have Esme Marist signed in. Judy Puckinen she signed in, but she didn't indicate whether she was in favor of or opposed to. Dashun Burrell?
DeJean Burrell, 20 Gusto Lane, Roosevelt, New York. It is in my position that the property being developed would be an enhancement to the community, knowing that there's a school locally nearby. I myself, being under a half a mile in distance from the property, would like to see the community enhanced and developed as such. And I think that in the direction that it's going would be an addition to the community to develop a property there and not leave it dormant or lying in waste. And I think that, in my addition and hopes, would be that the property would be, again, an enhancement and a development to our community.
Are you concerned that it would lie in waste if a house weren't put there, or?
If it were not developed
When you say
to a
developed, though,
structure, could be a home, could be an addition to a home, in hearing the case that has been presented to you today, in addition. But I think that, more importantly, I'm looking forward to it being developed.
I mean, because previously, as Mr. Nelson has testified, it was used in conjunction with the home near it.
Correct.
And now that that home's in foreclosure, we've all discovered that that little sliver of property was never actually owned by the folks who used it. I think it's likely they might have paid the taxes on it, but whatever it is, it is. So I assume the foreclosure house will also be purchased at some point in time. And so there is, I assume, the possibility that it could be acquired by the new homeowner and used the way it was previously,
The only way they can do that is if they brought an action.
or if they purchased it,
Well, they could either purchase it from the present owner, or they'd have to bring an action.
adverse possession.
Adverse possession.
But if
which
it
will
were
take years.
used in the way it was previously used, is that an adequate solution, or?
I would imagine so. If it is an adjacent property or a separate property, leaving it alone would be unhealthy for the community. I think that making use of it would be the benefit.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
John F. Boyd Sr.? Are you here, sir? Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and distinguished board members. My name is John F. Boyd Sr., and I'm the president for the Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce.
Sir, I really want to hear you. Can you speak up a little?
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, my name is John F. Boyd Sr., and I'm the president for the Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce, and I serve in that position proudly, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the community. It was brought to our attention about this property requiring a zoning hearing, and at our last meeting, the members were discussing it, and they feel that it's in the best interest of our community for that project to move forward. So they instructed me to prepare a letter that I submitted to the board, and I wanted to read it out if it was okay with you.
We have that, but if you'd
Okay.
like to read it, you might.
To the Town of Hempstead Board of Zoning Appeals, Old Town Hall, 350 Front Street, room 230, second floor, a letter of recommendation for case 317. Dear Board of Zoning Appeals, my name is John F. Boyd Sr., and I am the president of Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce. I am also aware of the request for a special variance for a proposed development by New York Land Development Corp. At their 36 Underhill Avenue location. Roosevelt is only 1 square mile, and the Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce is always concerned about the buildings that are now located in our community, However, we still want to encourage our residents and business owners to continue working to establish their own in our town. 36 Underhill Avenue is located on the southwest side of Underhill Avenue, about 1,000 feet from one of our prime business district on Babylon Turnpike. The location of this property will help to grow our community, and it will provide the additional housing that we so truly need for our local residents. The Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce realized that this property must be brought up to the town codes by the variance hearing, and after reviewing the plans that were presented to the Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce, we are in full support of this request from New York Land Development Corp. For the 36 Underhill Avenue location, as contained in case 317. So if you could do whatever you could do, the community is in full support of it. If you could make it happen, we would truly appreciate it, because there was a time when Roosevelt was full of illegal apartments and so on and so forth, and since the chamber has came aboard and we've seen it had turned the corner, and we're now in a good light. Roosevelt wasn't in a good light for a long time, but now we are. And I'm very proud to be serving this position. I'm originally from Hempstead. When I left the military, I couldn't find a house in Hempstead that was in my price range. That was 40 years ago. Moved to Roosevelt, established a home there, raised my family, and my youngest son, who's 31 years old, is running for judge and everything. So we create a lot of, good people that come out of Roosevelt. Eddie Murphy, Public Enemy, the list just goes on and on. Julius Erving. It's a small town. We don't have the same amount of square footage as other towns do. So we have to be given a little bit more consideration with what we're working with. But what Mr. Bianco is doing with New York Land Development is not going to hurt our town. We want to improve it. Like you said, some of the houses there were built in the 30s and 20s, and it's time to shine a good light. So I just wanted to thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to the board, and if you could really consider approving his application, we would truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is J.D. Rose. I live on East Greenwich Avenue in Roosevelt, which is about 4 blocks away from 36 Underhill Avenue. And I believe that I'm a proponent of new development in the community because it's time, because the lot is ugly, the empty lot is ugly, and I think that Mr. Bianco is going to put a very good-looking piece of property there to encourage home ownership. And I'm a proponent of new development in my community. Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple of small things before wrapping up. One is, we talked about the taxes not being paid. I know it's probably splitting hairs at this point, but the actual tax deed was from 2008, which means taxes were not paid at least from 2006, because it has to be tax arrears for 2 years before someone, tax lien holder, can take a deed. Second of all, and why this area I think is a little bit special and why you need development there. One is you have not only is there a school there, it is an absolutely gorgeous school. The people of the community should be complimented for the building that's there. Unfortunately, Underhill Avenue may be one of the worst roads I've ever driven on, at least between Babylon Turnpike and Stevens Street, one of the worst town roads I've ever driven on in my life. Now, will this application make it better? No, not by itself, but adding development and adding new homes and everything, I think we'll have the voices raised a little bit more in Roosevelt and get this street fixed, because it really is an abomination. Last but not least, and just for the record, there is a recommended Planning Commission disapproval. as the board is well aware from previous applications, I am counsel to the Nassau County Planning Commission. I recuse myself on all matters involving this client and all other clients that I have when recommendations, or when the cases, recommendations are made. In fact, not only was I not there when this was done, I was somewhere in the Caribbean, so I guess I have proof that I did not participate in that. I'm not bragging. I was just happy I didn't get seasick. And, you know, when in getting back to the theme of this, when the recommended disapproval was there, if you read it, I think it generally assumes that there's somebody subdividing a property and selling off side lots or whatever and making a few bucks off it. Totally different than the circumstance here with a tax deed, and that's for the board to determine, but that's not how the facts went down, and the chain of title evidence is that. Last but not least, if the board were inclined to approve the application, my client will agree to have it as a one-family owner-occupied, any of the usual conditions that the board imposes to prevent a new home from being developed into an illegal multiple dwelling, he will accept. And that's our case, unless the board has any other questions.
I didn't hear, what was the amount of money that your client paid for the property?
It was fairly negligible.
What's that?
How much did you pay for the property?
It was $7,000.
$7,000. No, it was negligible.
And that included, obviously, paying the back taxes on it?
No, no.
To satisfy the liens?
No, if you look at the chain of title, L&L Associates became the holder in 2008. So I assume that they paid the taxes prior to you purchasing, or was that the actual taxes, Mr. Bianco? There's still open taxes, I apologize. So,
And when did your client purchase the property? I don't remember that, hearing that.
11/5/21.
Thank you.
Did we ever establish, and if we did not, then we'll inquire about it, the property at, which occupies 1103 and 1104, was that, whatever approvals were given by the town, is that predicated, do we know whether or not that was predicated upon a lot size of 50 by 100, or?
I'll turn it over.
If I may, I printed out a copy of the Nassau County Assessor's record. Indicates that the property at 36 Underhill Avenue is situated on a 50 by 100 lot. I'll submit this to the board. 1103, and then 1102, 1104. Please.
I think I understand where your actual point, Mr. Regano. If when we close the hearing, I know the board can request additional documents from us. If you want to put in a requirement upon us before rendering a decision that we get you a copy of the CO for that, we'll call it the Sanders piece. We'll endeavor to get a copy of that, or if one cannot be located, we'll at least we'll do that in letter form. Fair enough?
Mr. Chairman, if there are no further questions, I'd move that the hearing be closed, the matter be placed on the decision calendar. Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Bianco, and everyone else who signed in on the case will receive a copy of the board's decision by mail once it's rendered. Thank you all for coming and participating, and have a nice day.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Bye, guys.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we're calling case 31323, Roosevelt Sophie Hargrove Woods, a.k.a. Sophie Woods, mother-daughter residence, second kitchen, also known as 71 West Fulton Avenue.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Owens will swear you all in, and then we'll proceed.
John Tufel, professional engineer, 707 Route 110, Farmingdale, New York.
Sophie Hargrove Wood, 71 West Fulton Avenue, Roosevelt, New York.
Haley Francis, 71 West Fulton Avenue, Roosevelt, New York.
Brianna Wood, 71 West Fulton, Roosevelt, New York.
Thank you, thank you. We're here today requesting a second kitchen for a mother-daughter residence at 71 West Fulton Avenue, Roosevelt. Ms. Hargrove Woods will reside downstairs with her younger daughter, Haley Francis. Ms. Hargrove Woods' other daughter, Brianna Woods, will live upstairs with her two daughters, aged 4 and 6. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Obviously, she's correct. Oh, okay. So, okay, we just need to put the two children's names that, yeah, thank you. Ms. Sophie is filling that in now. Ms. Hargrave Woods is putting those daughters' names down now. I've discussed with them the town requirements, only one mailbox, one doorbell, only one set of utility meters, and that this is not a two-family house. The second kitchen will be removed if the house changes ownership. So this is strictly a traditional family situation, a mom, her kids, and grandkids. And that completes our case. 3, we showed 3 in tandem. How many cars are in the house? No, I haven't.
It's empty, that was the one, it's just basically holding the window together.
Yes, they're aware of all the conditions. Excuse me? No, I don't. That completes our case.
Anything else to add? Do I have any questions or any further questions from the board?
Not at this time.
If not, do I have a motion?
Decision calendar. Everyone that signed in will be notified by the board's decision once rendered.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you all for being so patient. As to come.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Next we have case 31523, near Lawrence, Samchardra Indar and Dharmendra Indar, mother-daughter residence, second kitchen, also known as 200 Randall Avenue.
Chet.
Yes.
So you can get in a lot of trouble for that. Sure you could.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcelo Cohen. I'm an architect. My company is Delargent Design, which is located in 2963 Holiday Park Drive in Merrick, New York, 11566. I'm here today representing my client, Samchandra Indar, requesting an approval to convert the existing house into a mother-daughter residence. I've been to the house. I confirmed that the house complies with all the requirements, and the conversion will not produce any negative effect in the neighboring properties. The house is located in 200 Randall Avenue, which is on the north side of Randall Avenue, corner of Lawrence Avenue in Lawrence, New York.
You've been to the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what do you have on the upper floor? I'm going to call it the upper floor.
Yeah, the upper
because
level,
I'm
yeah.
not sure it's the second floor.
It's a split level, split
Split
upper,
level, okay.
upper floor,
The
yes.
upper floor, you have,
Yeah, we have bedrooms.
how
yes.
many?
Hold on. Right now, we have upstairs, in the upper level, we have 3 bedrooms.
And let's call it the middle floor. The
Yes.
one to the left as you're looking at the front of the home.
Yes, the one to the left. Okay, we have 3 bedrooms, and on the left side of the left drawing, you see that there are steps taking you down to the lowest level of the house, which is where the garage is located.
So if you were to walk up the front steps of the home, to the left of the entrance, what rooms are there?
Okay, to the, you're talking about the ground floor? What I call the existing first floor, the upper level?
Call it what you will.
Okay. Well, when you enter the house, first you have access to the front, then as you pass the foyer, you go either down to the lower level of the house, or you can go up to the bedrooms area. I know
What is to the left of the front door entrance? Is there
to
a
the left of the
living room,
front
a
door,
dining room,
we have a living room.
and a dining room behind it?
Yes,
Where is your kitchen?
the kitchen is right to the right side of the dining room.
Okay. Then you go to a lower level. What's
Yes.
on that first, we'll call it the first lower level.
Yes.
What's on that level, sir?
Okay, we have, well, it will be like another space used for, like, we call it living room, but it can be like a TV room or like a sitting area.
And is there a level below that?
The level below that is towards the left. As you go 3 risers, you go down to the garage level.
So you have a number of entrances into the home.
Yes.
The first one is the main entrance in front, and then it appears that if you go around the back, there is a level under an exterior staircase. You have an entrance above that exterior staircase, and another one below that exterior staircase.
Yes, it
So
is.
where do those entrances lead, sir?
Right. Well, now, those entrances lead to the house, the different levels, but as you could see in the basement reversal plan that was provided, we are planning on closing those doors in the back, so there will only be one main access to the house through the front.
One main entrance?
Yes,
And you will continue to have the other entrance above the staircase at the rear of the home, is that right?
yes,
And the other 2 entrances, one below that, that appears to be an entrance into some sort of a room that may house mechanicals?
well, no.
What is in there?
The boiler room is, I'm sorry, the boiler room is located on the ground floor, right next to what I call the secondary kitchen.
Okay, and the entrance to the right of that gives you entrance into
Oh, this is
what?
storage. It's like a
And
small,
that is-
small storage area in the back. There's no living space in there.
Is there a garage on the premises?
Yeah, there's a garage on the left side of the building. Actually, when you look at the left side on the drawing, it says existing ground floor plan. There's an existing 2-car garage.
Okay. And that garage is unfinished and unheated, is that right?
I'm sorry, that garage is?
That garage is unfinished and unheated, correct?
No, the garage is finished.
What do you mean by finished?
I mean, You have the finished, it's a little sheetrock walls with proper insulation behind it.
Can a car go in there?
Of course, you have the drawings, right? There are two
Well,
cars.
I know we have the drawings.
Look at the
but
drawings.
You were there, I
Yeah,
wasn't.
right, okay. I assume you have the drawings.
On one of the photographs, there appears to be an extension on the home. Could you approach the bench, sir?
Sure.
What's this? So it appears that your driveway comes in from here, goes around. What is this? No, what is this building? That's a shed? That would be over here. I see it. Okay. This says to be maintained. You wanna set it up? So, okay, but you're not removing?
No,
Okay.
there was a survey that, the latest survey that the record shows that.
So so your driveway comes in this way, here. This is your driveway, oh, I got it, okay. All right. Where are you going to put the second kitchen? Sorry.
The second kitchen will be located right where you see the garage. It will be right above the garage, next to the boiler room.
Your clients have received a mother-daughter fact sheet?
Yes.
And they're familiar with all the conditions?
Yes, they have.
They're aware that in the event of a sale or transfer of title to the property, this is not a legal two-family dwelling. They will maintain the appearance of a one-family dwelling. And they appeared, how many cars in the family?
Well, there are 3 cars in the family? Yeah.
How many?
3 cars.
And you have more than ample room to
Oh, yeah,
park
well, there are
off-street?
2 cars inside of the garage and 2
Okay.
cars in the driveway right outside of it.
Any other question? Does that conclude your
Yeah.
submission?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Any other questions from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move the hearing be closed, the case be placed on the board's decision calendar. When the board renders its decision, all parties who have signed in today will be notified by mail.
Okay, thank you very much.
Second? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
That's it.
Next, we have case 31623, Oceanside Fire District. Special exception to use premises for philanthropic use, construct addition to existing training tower, also known as 88 Mott Street. Gentlemen, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please take a seat and state your name and address for the record.
Anthony F. Iavino, 68 Yorktown Street, Rockville Center, for the applicant.
Good afternoon.
John Lunn, 842 Washington Street, Baldwin.
Matthew Martin, 64 Connecticut Avenue, Long Beach, New York.
We also have with us today 2 representatives from H2M Associates, if it's necessary. They're here in the building. Good afternoon. This is an application by the Oceanside Fire District to install an ancillary attachment to an existing training burn building at the premises known as 88 Mott Street. That property is 7.2 acres. The rear of it is bounded by the town dump and streets on each side. The structure that's we're looking to build is 320 square feet. It's essentially a small adjacent structure that'll be attached to the existing burn building. There'll be no burning done in that building. It'll be used for training purposes only. We don't need any relief for height, area, or setbacks. There'll be no additional traffic, water, noise, or light. There'll be no change whatsoever in the use of the property. This is simply an additional structure that they received a grant for to allow to continue to train our volunteer firefighters. The structure itself is actually set the furthest back part of the property towards the dump.
There's a open building permit, and it's number 19-4745, or building permit number 2019-205558. It's for a proposed 130-foot-high monopole and foundation for the firehouse. Has that been built? Yes. And when are you going to attempt to close it out?
May I ask the architect to step forward at this point?
Okay.
Sure. Dana Garrity, 19 All Points Drive, Holbrook. That monopole structure was just completed within the last couple of months. The C of O has been received. Unfortunately, it didn't make it to the latest paperwork that you have in front of you, though.
Okay,
It's been closed out.
thank you.
Not with me, but we could submit that to you
Could
if
you?
you need.
Why not? You want the CO for the monopole? That's
Monopole.
open permit. You could fax it to Mr. Bogle or Mr. Owens, or email it rather.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm old.
You have anything else you'd like to add?
No, nothing further, unless you have any other questions.
From the board? Not, can I have a motion, please?
I move the hearing be closed, the case be placed on the board's decision calendar. When the board renders its decision, all parties who have signed in today will be notified by mail.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. Second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? Wait.
I've seen it before.
Next, we have cases 320-23, Roosevelt, Areli Rodriguez. Variances, subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front back line, lot area occupied, rear yard, construct dwelling. West side Prospect Avenue, 460 feet south of Frederick Avenue, as well as case 321-23, Roosevelt, Areli Rodriguez. Variances, subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, lot area occupied, side yards aggregate, maintained dwelling on lesser lot, also known as 55 Prospect Street. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Take a seat, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, again, for the record, Robert W. O'Brien, 877 North Corona Avenue, North Valley Stream, New York.
Jed Nelson, 1380 Belmore Avenue, Belmore, New York.
David Higuita, Higuita, 280 Main Street, Suite 23, Farmingdale, New York, 11735.
Good afternoon again, Chair, members of the board. This afternoon, with respect to cases 320 and 321, I represent the applicant, Areli Rodriguez. The case is for a two-lot subdivision in the hamlet of Roosevelt. At the outset, I'd like to move to have the two cases consolidated and heard as one.
So moved.
And with me here today, who've put their appearances on the record, is our real estate expert, Jed Nelson, who's prepared to testify regarding the nature and character of the area, and at the benefit of the application to the applicant, outweighs any detriment to the surrounding community. And to his left is David Higuita, the applicant's representative, to answer any question the board may have about the design or layout of the property. The property, the subject property is on the west side of Prospect Street and south side of Locust Court, or on the west side of Prospect Street, approximately 460 feet south of Frederick Avenue. And for the record, it's known on the Nassau County tax map as Section 55, Block 291 and Lot 626, 629. The parcel that currently exists is slightly irregular with roughly 80 feet.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes,
626 or 627?
626 through 629, Mr. Regano.
Oh.
I think the...
No, I missed it.
I'm trying to
I
find
missed it through.
my arrow. The northernmost lot is 626, and the southernmost lot is 629.
Okay.
The parcels that currently exist, slightly irregular with roughly 80 feet of frontage on Prospect Street, 100 feet of depth on the north side, 113.30 feet of depth on the south side, a rear property line of 80 feet, an overall area of roughly 8,500 square feet. There is a one-family dwelling on the south side of the property the applicant is looking to maintain under Case 321. The variance is needed to maintain the existing dwelling on the lesser lot for subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to the front setback line, lot area occupied, and side yard aggregates, which then, by the way, the side yard aggregate is caused by the subdivision itself. It is not going to adversely affect any of the abutting neighbors, existing neighbors. The applicant also proposes constructing a new one-family dwelling on the north side of the property under Case 320. The variance is required to construct this new dwelling or for subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, lot area occupied, and lot area occupied in rear yard, which is caused by the angling of Frederick Avenue in the front. If the board is inclined to grant the application, the applicant is amenable, for the most part, with all reasonable and customary conditions that the board has been known to impose to ensure property is used as a one-family dwelling rather than a multi-family one. I know the board generally will put in an owner-occupied requirement. My client does not live on the property. She indicated to me she thought she might sell the property, but again, she might rent it. So she would want the right during her ownership that it not have to be owned, but again, it would be leased as an entire house, one-family dwelling, and that upon sale, that she would have no objection to it being owner-occupied. As is my practice, I made an inspection of the area in connection with this presentations. The homes in the general area are all of similar size and well-maintained. The properties are all developed in the area. If you were to do an overview, a flyover, if you may, it would look like a parking lot, and all the spots are taken except one. That one being this undeveloped parcel in the middle. It would stand out to you, and she is basically asking for the same, to have the same type of property as the adjoining properties on Prospect Street, which for the most part have the same width. And unless the board has any questions of me at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Nelson.
I have a question.
Yes.
I see there's no garage.
Yep, we noted that here, and Mr. Nelson will talk about his presentation. The houses around there generally do not have garages. I don't know if, it's an anomaly for the area, but the adjoining parcel does not. The properties, for the most part, in the area do not. And this it may have to do with the 40-foot frontage. That's why one isn't proposed here, because it fits in with the nature and character of the area in that respect. Goes two ways.
Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, my name is Jed Nelson. I am a real estate appraiser, 1380 Belmore Avenue, Belmore, New York. I have prepared a packet of photographs. I'm sure the board has become accustomed to that. The pictures were taken by me on Friday the 12th at approximately 11 a.m. They are of the subject property, the abutting neighbors, as well as other homes throughout this immediate area. In my professional opinion, they accurately depict the subject neighborhood. I'd like to submit them to the board for review.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes, sir.
You've been previously qualified by this board on numerous occasions.
Yes, sir.
Have there been any adverse changes in your qualifications?
No, sir.
Since the last time you appeared. Okay, so we will allow you to testify as a real estate expert.
Thank you. In addition to the package of photographs that I just submitted, I also have prepared a radius map. The radius map bears grids as well as colorful colors. They outline similar substandard lots in the neighborhood. They also have a grid as to the percentages, which I will testify, but I'll leave you the map to follow through my testimony. Subject property is located on the west side of Prospect Street, 460 feet south of Frederick Avenue, in the unincorporated hamlet of Roosevelt, part of the town of Hempstead, Nassau County, New York. It's also known by its civic address of 55 Prospect Street, designated as Section 55, Block 291, lots 626 through 629. It's presently zoned Residence B by the town of Hempstead Building Department. The site maintains 80 feet of street frontage along Prospect Street with varying depths of 100 feet along the northern property line, 113.3 feet along the southerly property line, containing a total of 8,532 square feet in total lot area. As my research investigation has revealed, it can be seen excuse me, on the radius map that along the east side of Prospect Street, none of which let's just go back and slow down. Which can be seen along the radius map that excludes a couple of lots along the east side of Prospect Street, none of which can be afforded enough street frontage to be subdivided. The subject is one of the largest lots in the immediate area. As you see on the radius map, there are only two other lots with 80 feet of street frontage. Both of these lots face onto Manhattan Street, 1 block west of the subject, and the homes are set in the middle of the lot. Therefore, these lots cannot be subdivided without demolishing the existing home. The neighborhood is an interesting mix of a variety of lot sizes, the majority of which are 40-foot street frontage. On the radius map, within 100 feet radius of the subject property, there are 17 improved lots. 11 of the 17, or 65%, afford 48 feet of street frontage or less. 10 of the 17, or 59%, afford 40 feet of street frontage. Within the 200-foot radius, there are 36 improved lots. 21 of the 36, or 58%, afford 50 feet of street frontage or less. 19 of the 36, or 53%, afford 48 feet of street frontage or less. 18 of the 36, or 50% of these lots, afford 40 feet of street frontage, similar to the requested variances by this application. There are 10 improved lots along Prospect Street, both north and south of the subject property, all of which afford 40 feet of street frontage. There are 5 lots to the north of the subject, 4 lots to the south of the subject, and both lots abutting the subject property to the rear are all 40 feet of street frontage. Therefore, based upon the aforementioned and looking at the radius map, it becomes apparent that the granting of this application will not change or alter the essential characteristics of this neighborhood. Moreover, it appears, based upon the development of the area and the way the subject property was developed, with the existing home, which was originally built in 1930s, was built along the southern property line, leaving the northern portion of the property vacant. It appears that this area of Prospect Street, south of Frederick Avenue, was intended to be developed with 40-foot lots. As council indicated earlier, it appears that the subject vacant portion of the property is a missing piece to a puzzle. By filling in this piece, it will complete the puzzle and render the job complete.
I like that. Like that.
No, he did not.
This is
If the board wishes, I have expanded my research investigation to include the east side of Bainbridge Street, south of Frederick Avenue, which can be seen also on the radius map. There are an additional 11 improved lots, of which 10 of the 11, or 91%, are 40-foot wide parcels. All of these numbers and percentages are all significant in the realm of describing the subject neighborhood and characteristics. By adding one more 40-foot lot, it will not change or alter the neighborhood characteristics, and it will not adversely affect the existing neighbors, neighborhood values, or neighborhood homeownership. It is my professional opinion that by granting this application, it will not produce an undesirable change to the neighborhood or the community. It will not have an adverse impact to any of the existing properties as to their market values or their marketabilities. All utilities are readily available on Prospect Street, including electric, water, sewer, cable service, etc. The proposed new construction will provide on-site parking for approximately 3 to 4 cars with a paved parking pad in the front of the proposed dwelling.
Is that 3 to 4 each, or 3 to 4 total?
3 to 4
Parking spaces.
per house.
Okay.
Okay, the new construction will have 3 to 4. The existing house has already 3 to 4 parking spots. Just to cover some economics, my research investigation reveals existing homes in this area of Roosevelt sell from the low 300s to the high of over $700,000. Anticipated sales prices of the subject properties, both being very similar in size and room count, should be in the high 600s to the low 700s, demonstrating that the proposed development will be towards the higher end of the value range for this area. It is my professional opinion that the proposed variance application makes good sense and offers a good solution for the need of residential housing in the area. It will help support the neighborhood values, increase the appeal and aesthetics for the area, all of which can be achieved without any detriment to any existing community or existing properties. Lastly, in the booklet of photographs at the end of the package, and I have indicated a location map of previously granted variances in this immediate area. There are copies of 29 variances that were granted within a 5-block radius to the subject property, all of which were to construct a new one-family dwelling on a substandard lot and/or maintain an existing residence on a substandard lot and subdivide and develop a new residence. All are very similar in the requested variance application as presented here today. That's my testimony. Yes. That's okay. Members of the board? For which house? The existing house? Okay.
You got your revenge, didn't you?
Yes.
Obviously, that will have to be closed.
What year is it?
What year? 2003.
Yeah, it was, no, that was for the house that was demolished there.
Ms. Belgrady, try to make it easy. There was a house that was there that was demolished. This was sold as vacant land. I didn't represent my client when she purchased it, but it was sold as vacant land when she bought it, so. Doesn't apply. Well, if the board wants to condition the grant on all permits being closed out properly, we certainly will accept that as a condition of grant. Right.
Have you been in the house that exists?
No, I have not physically been in the house that exists. I've driven by.
All right, so do you know that it is not a mother-daughter house?
It is my understanding that is not. My client has indicated to me, my client does not live in the house, so it would not be eligible, because I believe for a mother-daughter to be, unless somebody changed the code, you have to own the property and reside there, and it has to be a family member. So that certainly cannot be the case. And as
When your client purchased this house, was it a mother-daughter?
no, it wasn't a house. It was land.
It's a subdivision, there's an existing house.
There was a. My client-
existing house.
As I understand it, she purchased his land, built a new house. David, could you fill the board in on what happened?
I'll tell them.
Purchased this land separate from the house attached to it?
When she purchased the property, the previous owners demolished the house that was there before.
Okay, so then there were two houses, that's fine.
No, there was only one house.
Did
One
she
house.
purchase the entire 80 by 100
The
at the
entire-
same time?
yes, exactly, so.
Okay.
Whatever
And
previous-
at that time, there was one house and she demolished that house.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Correct. And if you see the certificate of occupancy, the house that is there right now, the house that is there right now, was built, it started being built in 2021 or 2022. And the certificate of occupancy was just issued this year. So there is no way that no permit will apply to this, because the building inspector, Stan Puglisi, was just there not even 5 months ago. And you well know, no inspector will approve a CO if there was any situation in the house that was illegal. In other words, there is no mother-daughter, there is no second kitchen on this house. The way I designed it makes it almost impossible to put a second kitchen.
And as the board will submit, as applicants say, certificate of occupancy dated February 4, 2022, based upon a building permit that was issued on September 15th of 2020.
We'll accept that in evidence.
And that's, that.
Do you want to
and that
show that,
specifically-
Patrick, to the objectant?
Your
So
client, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So your client owns this house,
That is correct.
owns the vacant property,
That is correct.
and she is not going to
Patrick?
live in
Patrick.
the house to be built.
She's
So
not
she's
going to
going
live,
to
she
have
does not
two-
live in the house that has been built.
Right.
She's not going to live in the house that will be
Will be
built.
built.
And just as part of my presentation, just going back what I said before, and I think you were nodding at me when I said it, Ms. Adams, is that she would like she indicated to me she thinks she probably wants to sell it, but she's not certain. So I know the board likes to put in a condition
No, I
of
heard
owner
you, yeah.
occupancy. And so I said, what I'd like, just to vary a little bit, is that as long as she owns it, that she be able to rent it out to one family, in compliance with the town code, but upon sale, that she be allowed to, that the person who buys would be subject to where it has to be owner occupied.
I mean, whether you know it or not, I don't know, but are there a lot of rentals in this area?
That I don't know, maybe.
You'd prefer not to answer.
Without having access into the properties or finding out who's living there, I can tell you that there are a lot of ownerships in the property, but I don't know if they are thereby renting them.
I would also like to add, a minute to look on the floor plan. I made it very difficult to divide the property to make 2 units.
Mr. Higuita, you drew the plans. for the home that is currently occupying this, one of these lots or this lot?
Yes.
You drew the plans. I'm looking at the certificate of occupancy, and I'm kind of baffled. Size of the lot, X. What was the lot size upon which this house was built? 40 by 100, 80 by 100?
40, that lot size, when it was, the whole lot, do you have the number with you? The
So it
whole
was
lot?
issued on a lot of 80 by 100, is that correct? Roughly 80 by
Roughly,
100?
yes, roughly, because
Roughly.
of course it is, the right number is different, but yes, yes.
Thank you.
If I may just add something, I'm only going by the mailing list when you asked about rentals, but most of, I'm looking at the certified mails, and most went to addresses in the area, which would seem to indicate to me that the people are living in the houses as opposed to living outside the community and then renting them out. There's, I see one owned by a corporation in Garden City and another owned by an individual in East Stroudsburg, PA, but the rest of them are all Roosevelt in the neighborhood.
I was just concerned because I'm looking at Google Earth, and at the end of the one street, one house has 6 cars.
I'm sorry, 6 what?
Cars,
Okay.
okay? And the other one across the street has about 6 cars. So,
You know, we all think, I think we all think the worst when we see that. You know, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by thinking the best.
Does that conclude your case, Mr. O'Brien?
Unless the board has questions of me?
Okay. We do have someone who signed in opposition.
Sure.
Ms. Evans? Pardon me?
I said greetings.
Greetings, greetings to you back.
I swear and affirm to tell the whole truth and all that good kind of stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put that in there. Okay, guys. Oh, I love hearing when people come to the table and they talk about they're putting the puzzle together. Well, let me give you some more pieces to the puzzle. Number one, I am Alicia Evans.
Name and address for
Alicia Evans at 61 Prospect Street. I have lived on that block since 1996, and I've watched the changes. Over the past 2 or 3 years, I've watched 5 new houses come in. Let's jump into where someone, one of the board members there, you saw an issue with cars. Indeed, there is an issue with cars. There are many rentals there, and if you really went to wherever you have to go to see who the owners are, many owners do not live on the street, and they are renting out. I would like to submit this, these pictures that are right here, which shows you a typical day. Anytime homeowners come, or even rentals come, they have to even walk to the next block, Frederick Avenue, to actually park their cars. Let's talk about why I do not agree to what's going on. I remember when that land was actually empty, and we had all, the neighbors, we had all talked about a new home going there, and it was many, many years, and we were quite surprised at the way the property was divided with this, and I don't know, you know, what the size of a lot should be, but it looked like when the person bought it, you know, what was left, it's like, how do you put another house there? Maybe you can, but I do not think it should be there. I do not think that it should be placed there because it has a negative impact on the property owners and the people who are still living right there. We get increased traffic and increased noise. When you have cars on both sides of those streets, you cannot get down the street. We have, as a matter of fact, a home right next to my home was just purchased. They took their entire lawn and they paved the lawn so that they can get 5 cars on it at a time. And I have pictures that indicate that. Let's talk about some facts and some studies. They said when you have lots that are made smaller, what happens is that they indicate that you lose the close-knit knit of the community. I live there and I have seen this happen. We are getting more crime in the area. In addition, this particular street is adjacent to Meadowbrook Parkway. So there's the, the forest or the woods that are there. In that parkway, I believe within the past 2 or 3 years, we had major crimes in that wooded area that's back there. We have homeless people back there. My fear is that if we increase the density of more people in this area, it is going to negatively impact the quality of life of people who are there. We are talking about hardship, negative impact. It is not a win-win, which has been indicated earlier here, and it does not make good, smart community sense. In addition, when we're talking about the well-being and enjoyment of the community, we are negatively impacted. In addition, Nassau County, that wooded area between Prospect and the Meadowbrook Parkway, that Nassau County deemed that area an environmentally safe area. So when we're talking about adding additional housing there, we are taking away more green space that's there. Let me see, wait a minute, hold on. In terms of parking, my family has 2 cars. I went up and down the lots, and I'm up and down the street, and you see anywhere from 4 to 6 cars per family. That is not good. And you can see the density that is there, that's a typical. If I get home after 7 o'clock at night, I may very well have to park around the corner, and that makes no sense. In front of the lot that they're talking about right now, cars are parked in front of it because they don't have any places to park. Hold on, let me make sure I get all my points here. We have multiple family dwellings in single-family homes. About 4 houses away, the owner of a home, and the owner lives in upstate New York. The owner put a dormer on top of the house. When you pass the house, it's a glorious house, beautiful house. They are rented rooms. We have 10 rooms rented in that house. There, in the back of that particular house, there's an illegal shed, but the shed has been built as a 2-family, it looks like a little dollhouse, but people are living in the 2-family shed in the back. So this is why I bring opposition to you today. Hopefully that fills out the negative stuff and it fills in the puzzle. And as someone here said, you can't think the worst, but yes, you can. And that is what brings me here today. Thank you.
The proposed house, how many entrances will there be?
There's one.
One entrance, one in the front, one in the back.
No, I believe that there's one total. And
Is it 2 code, or?
that's an interesting question. Let Mr. Higuita.
What did you do, Mr. Higuita?
If you look on the first floor, there are 10 windows between the living room and the bedrooms. If you look at the label, it says TW3046. Those are underset windows that counts as egress. So again, as I said before, the only thing that I can do is my best when I do a design. I made the design of this house almost impossible to divide it into 2 properties. Nobody can live in the basement. A basement entrance will need the approval of this board. A side entrance will need the approval of this board. But going back to the egress, so those 10 windows comply with the egress. So how many egress has this house? 11, counting the door. That's why it was
There's
approved.
only one door to get in there.
Only one door. Makes me very, very,
Okay.
no, it only makes me very smart.
And it makes it very difficult to turn it
And
into a
you'll-
legal
you'll-
multiple residence.
You'll agree to no outside basement entrance?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The first house was built like that, and the second house, subdivision of this board, they have
What else? That's it.
Want to ask us?
Yeah, she's took the time, why not?
Ms. Evans, could you give Mr. Owens the address of that property you referred to earlier where they're allegedly renting rooms out? And they have, could you please do that? Patrick? Patrick? You know what to do.
I won't give your name out either.
Pardon?
I was joking. I said I won't give her name out either. She said she didn't want her name given out.
All right,
The complaint.
we'll give Mr. Higuita's name out, and his address, and
So what, never mind.
I have a dog. One of my dogs.
If I may, just a small thing to wrap up. If you start just north of the Evans house, 40 feet of frontage, Evans, 40 feet of frontage, Leon, 40 feet of frontage, Bonilla, 40 feet of frontage, and then go south, Sains, 40 feet of frontage, Fielding, 40 feet of frontage. Fielding's again 40 feet of frontage, two houses. The nature and character area is 40 foot
We get it.
Mr. Nelson thoroughly just, you know,
frontage. And
examine that
just for,
and
it's not like the donut shop. Somebody
No.
got the last donut and this doesn't get the 40 by 100. And out of fairness and equity, I believe it's a good application, and I would ask the board to grant it as
Is that it,
we
Mr.
proposed.
O'Brien?
That is our case, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have any other questions from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move the hearing be closed, the case be placed on the board's decision calendar. When the board renders its
Thank you
decision,
all for
all parties
coming.
who have signed in today will be
Stephanie,
notified
do
by
you need
mail.
a break?
You want
Okay, so we are going,
Aye.
You gonna do that? You gonna take the?
so we have a motion, and we have a second, and we have all the ayes. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 15-minute break as per Mr. Pellegrini's request. We'll be back at 4:25. Patrick?
Next, we're going to call case 223, West Hempstead, Beis Midrash of West Hempstead. Special exception for proposed religious use, synagogue. Waive off-street parking with insufficient maneuvering aisle. Special exception to park in Residence B District and parking in the front yard setbacks on both streets, also known as 549 David Street. Gentlemen, please stand.
Did you look at this?
Yes. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? So help you God? Please take a seat, state your name and address for the record.
Certainly welcome to stay. It's an open public hearing, but your Roosevelt matter is over with specifically.
Oh.
Good. We welcome you. I don't blame you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. William Bonesso for Chelly Deegan Tirana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. Here on behalf of the applicant, Beis Midrash of West Hempstead. Seated to my right is Rabbi and Principal for Beis Midrash, Rabbi Dov Greer. Together we are presenting the application of Beis Midrash of West Hempstead, seeking special exception and variance relief from this board in order to permit the conversion of a parcel of property and dwelling, an existing dwelling thereon, to a place of worship. The property in question is situated on the southwest corner of David Street and Nassau Boulevard. It's approximately 7,900 square feet. It's improved with a one-story masonry single-family dwelling. It has a basement and a first floor. The proposal is to convert the building to a shul, a small synagogue, for the purposes of religious worship, religious instruction, and the activities that go along with it. As I had indicated in my letter that went out with the notices, this is a small shul. It has a limited activity, or I should say it has limited activities. Obviously, there'll be services on the Sabbath, Friday night, and Saturday when congregants walk. There'll be the religious holidays. There'll be prayer services each evening on the other days, Sunday through Thursday, typically about a half hour before sunset, where there might be 15 to 20 people present for prayer services. And then through the course of the week, there'll be various small group meetings for religious education, religious activities, might be 6 to 8 people present at those times. So they have very limited demand for parking, very limited activities in the way of people occupying the building. And as a result, they feel very confident that the available parking, which has an ample supply of non-restricted parking on Nassau Boulevard, will easily accommodate the needs of the site. Now, most of the congregants, it's about 20 families who are members here, are also members of Young Israel of West Hempstead. This provides them with for those who live in the immediate community, this provides them with a shul that is closer. As you'll see in some of the letters of support we have, some of the congregants are getting a little older and have a little harder time walking the, close to a mile that it is to get to Young Israel of West Hempstead. So this is a good solution for them. It's really, it's not a satellite, but it really serves as an appendix, if you will, to Young Israel of West Hempstead. But it is its own shul and synagogue. The process that we've gone through is a very positive one. The applicant, when we made our application, we were contacted shortly before our first hearing by the Community League of Garden City South, Incorporated, headed up by Margaret Kelly. And she indicated that she represented the community and a number of residents who had some concerns about the project. So we've scheduled a meeting, which we held first in April. We had a good meeting where we discussed a number of issues. Thereafter, she needed to go back to her people. We met with her board, really, and she went back to her people. She needed time for that, so we adjourned the case a second time to this date, and that allowed her in early May to meet with her people, at which point there were some additional questions, additional points that they wanted to make, so we met again last Wednesday on May 10th, and as a result of those meetings, and at that meeting there was not only Ms. Kelly and her organization, but several of the actual residents from the area, and we had a very good meeting again, and it resulted in our ability to hammer out a list of conditions, which I have provided in a letter. I've provided a copy to Ms. Kelly, I've provided a copy to Mr. Owens, and I have the original signed letter, which I'll hand up to the board in a few moments. But we came up with a list of conditions, 12 conditions that will be applicable to the operation and development of the synagogue, which I believe, and I believe Ms. Kelly will agree, have addressed the concerns and questions of the community and of the Civic Association. And I think based upon that, we have a very good compromise, one that will safeguard and address the concerns of the community, while at the same time allow my client and his congregants to engage in appropriate religious activities and worship. If the board likes, I could read the conditions into the record, or I can just submit it again. The board already has a copy of it. It's up to you.
You've already submitted it, or, well, maybe I'll take a look at it. You already have it.
All right. I would point out the first condition is an important request to put on the record. The first condition has to do with the community's desire to maintain the property as in as residential a fashion as it can be, and in so doing, it seeks to avoid doing the paving and parking, formal parking space modifications to the site that are proposed on the plan that we submitted. Instead, what we propose are one of two things, depending on how the board feels about it. The desire is to simply use the existing concrete driveway that comes off of David Street and can accommodate probably 3 cars in it presently, and simply have that to accommodate the daily needs in addition to the available parking on Nassau Boulevard in order to address that. In doing so, we avoid the new parking lot, the parking spaces in the back, which were not very desirable to the residents. Certainly the parking spaces on Nassau Boulevard, which I don't know that the county would have approved anyway, because you're talking about backing out onto Nassau Boulevard, not the safest thing. So if the board is okay with that, we're fine with that. We don't feel that we need to improve it this way. Our architect made these, prepared these drawings so that they could address at least 6 parking spaces, albeit the 2 on Nassau Boulevard. Like I said, I don't know if they were ever going to be approved. But if the board feels that there does need to be a little bit more parking, then we offered as a suggestion that we take the existing concrete parking pad driveway and extend it further south to be parallel with the rear of the dwelling. And in doing that, we feel that we can easily get 6 cars parked there, tandem, 3 behind 3. But you might even get one more than that. But in doing that, then you'd at least have 6 spaces for vehicles off street. We are prepared to do either. In doing so, it keeps the amount of paving that goes on the property to a minimum, and it allows the property to continue to look like a residential property. The only other improvement to the building will be a handicap ramp that is proposed for the front. Other than that, the building itself will just have interior alterations. There are presently hedges, and that was another condition indicated. There are hedges that run along the sidewalk on Nassau Boulevard. They're actually impeding the sidewalk. They will be removed and replaced with a fence that is compliant with zoning and building codes. And that's the only site improvements that we would make if it's acceptable to the board. And other than that, the conditions set forth all of the operational and procedural regulations we're prepared to impose, including the last condition, which is that that the decision of the board, if granted, and if granted with these conditions, will be reduced to a declaration of restrictive covenants and recorded against the property so that any future purchaser of the property or occupant of the property is made aware through, or at least deemed legally aware of the conditions and restrictions that affect the property. So all that being said, I believe that we have a very good compromise that will address the needs of the community and the shul. Yes, Ms.?
How many parishioners do you have now?
They have about 20 families. The occupancy of this building is going to be limited by the town working with the fire marshal and the building department will issue an occupancy certificate. It'll probably be around 45 people. That's based on our architect's estimates, and that's what he based his parking requirement on. It has 35 seats shown, but it could probably have 45 occupants. The congregants, like any shul or synagogue or church, everybody doesn't come to every event. But if it's occupied by 35 to 45 people, we still think that that the parking on the street can accommodate, and that's really only on the days when they can drive, because if we're talking about Sabbath, then they're walking. And as you'll see in several of the letters of support, they do indicate that it's a good thing for them because they do walk to the services.
Is there a basement?
There is a basement for storage only, and that's one of the conditions, storage and mechanicals only. It will not be used for any other purposes.
And there will be no childcare?
No childcare, that's also in the conditions. No childcare, no day camp, no organized school, although, like I said, there will be religious instruction, small group religious instruction and activities during the course of the week. So that's our direct presentation. Nassau County Planning Commission recommended local determination. So I know Ms. Kelly's going to speak, and I would just like an opportunity to close.
Okay. Ms. Kelly?
I'm handing up the letters of support. Yeah. We actually like each other.
We do. We get along very well. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Margaret Kelly. I'm the president of the Community League of Garden City South. I do. The address is P.O. Box 7229, Garden City, New York, 11552. I have to tell you, I've been doing this for about almost 8 years now, and this is the first time that we've had an attorney that was a complete gentleman and able to work with the community, and it was a wonderful reprieve for us. We did set some conditions to, at the very beginning of this, the community was very opposed to it. We had a petition out, and it came back to me just about 3 days ago with over 500 signatures opposing this. But since the back and forth meetings that we've had, and Mr. Benesso and I have become friends on email as well, we have come up with some conditions that the community is very happy that he has entered into record. So at this point, we stand as neither opposition nor support, but we will welcome the new shul into the community. I do have a folder of stuff that I was prepared to, and I would enter into record. And moving forward, we're hoping that the community will be conjoined, and both sides will be happy.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Must admit that after review of the conditions in Mr. Benesso's letter, I think the parties did a wonderful job accommodating each other.
Well, if I may, I would just like to add, and I said as much to Ms. Kelly, that as much as she's been doing this for 8 years, I've been doing this for going on 25 years now, and this was one of the most pleasant and professional situations I've had with any civic association. So as I've thanked her in emails and between the two of us, I'll put on the record, I thank her for her courtesy, her professionalism, and for being as reasonable as she has been. And I think she will find Rabbi Kramer and the congregation to be good neighbors.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other questions from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move the hearing be closed, the case be placed on the board's decision calendar when the board renders its decision. All parties who have signed in today will be notified by mail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Next case.
Oh, this is going to be a long one. Okay, finally, we have cases, we'll start with case 25823 Elmont, Papio Development Corp., variances subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, side yards aggregate, rear yard construct dwelling, east side of Evans Avenue, 522 feet south of Hempstead Turnpike. Oh. Also case 25723 Elmont, Papio Development Corp., variances subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, side yards aggregate, rear yard construct dwelling, also known as 53 Evans Avenue, as well as case 25923 Elmont, Papio Development Corp., variances subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, side yards aggregate, rear yard construct dwelling, east side Evans Avenue, 548 feet south of Hempstead Turnpike.
Yes.
Yes, for the applicant again, Robert W. O'Brien, 877 North Corona Avenue, North Valley Stream, New York.
James Bianco, President, Papio Development, 250 Merrick Road, Rockville Center, New York.
Jed Nelson, 1380 Belmore Avenue, Belmore, New York.
Good afternoon once again, Chairman, members of the board. In respect to these cases, I represent the applicant Papio Development Corp., three-lot subdivision in the hamlet of Elmont. Outset, I'd like to move to have the three cases consolidated and heard as one.
So moved.
And with me here today, they've put their appearances on the record, is real estate expert Jed Nelson, who's prepared to testify regarding the nature and character of the area and the benefit of the application to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the surrounding community. And to my immediate left is James Bianco, the applicant's principal, to answer any questions that the board may have regarding the application. The property that is the subject of the application is on the east side of Evans Avenue, approximately 496 feet south of Hempstead Turnpike, and for the record, it's known on the Nassau County tax map as Section 35, Block 29, and lots 39 to 44. The parcel as it currently exists is a perfect rectangle, 78 feet of frontage on Evans Avenue, 80 feet of depth on each side, and a rear property line of 78 feet. It has an overall area of 6,240 feet. The applicant proposes subdividing the property and then constructing a new one-family dwelling on each new parcel. Each new parcel will have 26 feet of frontage on Evans Avenue, 80 feet of depth on each side, and a rear property line of 26 feet, and therefore contains roughly 2,080 feet of area. The variance needed to subdivide the property and construct each of the three new proposed homes is for the subdivision itself, lot area, front width from and on the street line to the front setback line, side yard aggregate, and rear yard. This is my practice. I made a visit to the property and did an inspection of the surrounding area. I'm well versed with the area, having lived there for 65 years. The homes, for the most part, are a mix of construction from different times. Some predate the building code that was adopted by the town in 1930, others from the 60s and 70s, and still others that are relatively new. Mr. Nelson will give a much better presentation of that. Most of the homes in the area are constructed on substandard lots, and so we understand what we mean by the substandard. We don't mean the homes are substandard. We mean that the size of the lots do not meet the qualifications of the code. Once I had a case and somebody thought we were calling their house substandard, and we certainly were not. Many do not have garages, with some not having any parking whatsoever. Although I know that Mr. Nelson will cover it in his presentation, immediately behind the subject are 2 dwellings, each built on lots with only 20 feet of frontage and having roughly the same area as each of the proposed new dwellings. And immediately to the north of the subject premises, there's a 26 by 100. The exact dimensions of the new building lot proposed by the applicant herein. Unless the board has any questions of me at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jed Nelson, 1380 Belmore Avenue, Belmore, New York. Thank you for your patience and for your time of entertaining me. I have prepared a package of photographs. Oh, I'm sorry. Allowing me to be here to entertain you. Yeah, this is. I have a package of photographs that were taken by me on Monday, April 24th at approximately 11 a.m. in the morning. They are of the subject property, the surrounding properties. They accurately depict the subject neighborhood. In addition to the photographs, there are approximately 44 or 45 copies of variances that were all granted within the 5-block radius of the subject property. There's also a location map that indicates where the variances were granted. I'd like to submit this for the board's review. In addition, I've again prepared a radius map that bears legends and colors and indicates the subject property. It also indicates all lots that are substandard based upon street frontage and size for the Residence C zoning district requirements. In addition, the yellow highlights indicate similar 26-foot wide properties or less. The 2 being behind the subject property are 20-foot wide. I'd like to submit this also for the board's review. In addition, I've submitted earlier a picture of a house that was recently developed on a 26-foot wide lot. This is a good indication as to what will be built for the neighborhood. As they do that, I will just continue. Subject property is situated on the east side of Evans Avenue, 496 feet south of Hempstead Turnpike in the unincorporated hamlet of Elmont, part of the town of Hempstead, Nassau County, New York. Formerly known as 53 Evans Avenue and designated as Section 35, Block 29, Lots 39 through 44 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. The property is presently zoned Residence C by the Town of Hempstead Building Department. The site maintains 78 feet of street frontage along Evans Avenue with a depth of 80 feet, containing a total of 6,240 square feet in total lot area. As my research investigation has revealed, this is a very unique area of Elmont in that there are approximately 90% of the properties found within the 300-foot radius of the subject property that are substandard in both size and street frontage based upon the Residence C zoning requirements. That equates to only 10 properties out of 94 improved lots within the 300-foot radius that would be permitted to be developed without the benefit of a variance approval based upon the Residence C zoning requirements. So let us cover the radius map at this time. Within 100-foot radius of the subject property, there are 18 improved lots. 16 of the 18, or 89%, are substandard based upon the Residence C zoning requirements. One lot is an 18-foot wide parcel. 2 lots are 20 feet wide parcels. 2 lots are 26 feet wide. An additional 1 lot is 29 feet wide. 2 lots are 39 feet wide. 4 lots are 40 feet wide. And there is 1 lot that's 52 feet wide. Within the 200-foot radius, there are 47 improved properties. 41 of the 47, or 87%, are substandard in size based upon the Residence C zoning requirement. In addition to the aforementioned numbers of individual lots, within the 200-foot radius, there are 7 26-foot wide properties, 3 28-foot wide properties, 2 29-foot wide properties, and 3 30-foot wide properties. Just to expand the research analysis a little bit more, to include a 300-foot radius to the subject property, there are 94 improved lots. 84 of the 94, or 89%, are substandard in size based upon the Residence C zoning requirements. 17 of the 84, or 20%, have 26 feet of street frontage or less. 64 of the 84 lots, 76%, afford 40 feet of street frontage or less. And if you include the properties just outside the 300-foot radius submitted herein on the radius map, there are an additional 10 improved properties that afford 26 feet of street frontage or less, bringing the total of lots with 26 feet of street frontage or less to 27 total lots. That's 27 properties in the immediate area of the subject property that affords 26 feet of street frontage or less, including the properties abutting the subject property to the north, known as 47 Evans Avenue, which affords a 26-foot wide lot and is actually 26 by 80, exactly the same as to what is proposed by this application. Abutting the subject property to the rear are 2 20-foot wide parcels that face onto Honeywell Avenue. Therefore, if the requested variances were to be approved as proposed by this application, the parcels would be similar to many of the properties that exist in this area and will not alter or change the existing essential characteristics of this neighborhood. The fact that close to 90% of the properties in the area are substandard in property size and street frontage and have not altered the values of the existing homes, nor have they suffered any form of diminishing property values. This demonstrates that the proposed application will not adversely affect the property values or hinder the market value or marketability of any of the existing homes in the area. Conversely, it has been proven in the past testimonies that new construction tend to sell at the higher end of the value range in a neighborhood and help to stimulate neighborhood aesthetics, appeal, desire, support neighborhood values without posing any detriment to the community or nearby property ownership. In addition to the variances granted in this area, of which are included in the booklet I have submitted, there are 44 variances issued just along Evans Avenue for the construction of residential homes on substandard lots. These variances date back from the late 1950s to present day, demonstrating that this trend has been existing for the past 60-plus years, and the proposed application is not unique or starting of something new. It will not change or alter the existing characteristics of this neighborhood. Additionally, to the aforementioned, there have been several variances granted in the immediate area for the conversion of an existing one-family residence to a two-family residence in this immediate area, specifically within the 200-foot radius. All were done on substandard parcels, as none of them afford a 12,000 square foot lot area, which is required for a two-family in the residency zoning district. Existing home sales in the area range from the mid-$300,000 to the high of over $800,000. As my research as of this morning, there were 63 homes currently available for sale within the entire Elmont community. They range from a low of asking of $349,000 to a high of over $1 million. New construction in this area range from the mid-600s to the high of over $1 million for new construction. The estimated values of the proposed development would be approximately in the low to mid $700,000 range, thereby being at the mid to higher end of the value range for the immediate area, demonstrating that the proposed construction will help sustain and support neighborhood values. It is my professional opinion that the proposed application will not produce an undesirable change to the characteristics of this neighborhood, as demonstrated earlier in my testimony, as there are many, many similar properties throughout the area, and there has been a substantial amount of previous variances granted on the subject street and throughout the immediate area. The granting of the requested variance applications will not adversely affect the market value or marketability of any of the existing nearby properties, yada, yada, yada. All utilities are, I know, you don't know what that is. Can you spell that? Yeah, okay, good. I'm just trying to keep it short. I know it's getting late. All utilities are readily available on Evans Avenue, which include electric, cable service, water, sewer, etc. Parking for each proposed new construction will be provided on-site by a paved parking pad suitable for at least 2 cars. It is my professional opinion that the proposed application makes good sense and offers a very good solution for the need of residential housing in the area without posing any detriment or adverse effect to any of the existing homes, home ownership, or the community or district as a whole. The proposed application, if approved, offers a good opportunity for good growth, sustained values, will help support the community. That is my testimony. Yada, yada, yada.
I have some questions. The 26 by 80 property that you spoke about that's beside this property, do you know when that was built?
Which one in particular? There
One
are
that was built right beside the 3 that you're looking to build.
the one immediately to the north.
On Evans, yes.
I might have that record card. In the booklet is a picture of the house. I do not have the specific age of the house.
How about the 2 behind?
Those were pursuant to variance approvals. So, again, their variances are in the packet of photographs. At the end, there are 44 variances that I've included. Those 2 that...
Excuse me, they have the address?
I'm sorry?
The 44 variances that you had spoken about.
Yes.
They have the addresses?
They have either the addresses or the addresses or the physical location, being the east side of Honeywell, certain amount feet north of Russell Street. Yes.
Okay, I had a question about the 44 variances. You said it started in the 1950s up to the present.
Correct.
How many variances are there within the last 10 years?
I'd have to go through that, but I believe there are at least 10 to 12 variances that were granted since the year 2000.
The house is still there? No, the house has been demolished.
No exterior basement entrance other than that.
In fact, it's already one of the gentlemen was less chance of a property being developed into an illegal local development.
No side entrances as well?
No, it was one front, one rear. And yeah, we would agree that no exterior basement entrance.
Just the egress window that's shown.
Exactly, and I think those are good things with fire code nowadays.
And each home will have 2 parking spaces
That's correct. A path for-
on the property.
on the property.
Is that your case, Mr. O'Brien?
As I said, I believe
Any
there's
other
some neighbors in
questions?
opposition. I'd like to comment, and
Understood.
I know a gentleman who was here last time who couldn't be here, put in some in opposition, which I would like my right to reserve comment on also.
Okay. Any other questions from the board before we turn the microphone over to the opponents? Who would like to speak?
My name is John McManamy. I live at 60 Evans Avenue, right across the street in Elmont.
Correct.
I do. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, myself and a couple of my neighbors, myself and a couple of my neighbors have walked around the neighborhood, and we've received 100 signatures in opposition to these houses. They spoke of variances that were put up and the construction and whatnot of other houses in the area. No new constructions have happened in this area of Evans Avenue. They've all modified their own houses, made larger living spaces for themselves. I, myself, my property is only 26 feet wide. My house was built prior to 1928. It's my understanding that a lot of homes in the community were originally bungalow houses. That's why they're on small, substandard properties. Also, one of my neighbors, which I met previously, Alan Shimon, he's an architect. He drew up a letter opposing this. I believe he sent it to the board. If not, I have this to submit.
No, we have that.
Okay. And with that, the letter that we circulated amongst the neighbors, a subdivided single parcel of land to 3 individual parcels of residential homes, of which is not physically possible construction according to the diagrams plans submitted, as well as a letter mailed to the residents as proposed by Pt2 Development Corporation, will continue undue hardship on the existing residents. This application will impinge upon an already congested area of Evans Avenue. It is a narrow street with limited parking and increased traffic. The residents of the town of Elmont purchased their properties in the suburban community where there are like properties and mutual respect for their neighbors. This proposal and application of multiple structures on what was meant to be a parcel with a single structure on it will push the town of Elmont further into the state of urbanization, of which Long Island as a whole, including Nassau County and the town of Hempstead, elected officials and residents have vehemently fought and has thus far won against Governor Hochul's plan to do so.
Do you have a petition with 100 signatures?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to submit that?
Yes, yes, I will.
Could you show it to Mr. O'Brien, please? We'll take that into evidence.
Myself, my next door neighbor. Excuse me? Myself, my next door neighbor, and my son.
Okay, thank you. That it?
Also, in reference to the houses that are on Honeywell that are 20 feet wide, one of those houses caught fire about 2 years ago, and thankfully the Elmont Fire Department, with mutual aid from Franklin Square Fire Department, extinguished that fire before it spread to other houses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Brien, is there anyone else? Oh, come.
Okay. Unfortunately, yes.
She was previously
Again?
sworn in. She was sworn in? Yes. Again? Okay.
I do. Do I need to state my name again?
State your name and address
Okay.
again.
Margaret Kelly, President of the Community League of Garden City South, Incorporated, P.O. Box 7229, Garden City, New York, 11530.
What is your home address, Ms. Kelly?
8 Richard Street, West Hempstead, New York, 11552. So I'm not prepared to speak. However, I did see the plans, and I did read up a little bit on this while I've been kind of Googling Town of Hempstead stuff. My problem with this is you're taking a one-family house and property, and you're dividing it into 3 separate homes. I understand that this part of Elmont, which I did live in for quite a while, actually on Evans Avenue, my address was 6 Evans Avenue. The people that live in that, a lot of those houses are bungalows. That was a bungalow community, which is no longer a bungalow community. These are full houses now. By putting 3 parcels, making 3 parcels out of one, the already congested area, which Mr. Nelson himself had said how many houses are actually on that, which is obvious how congested it is, will just add to that congestion. Besides for that, looking at this from a neighbor's point of view, they bought their houses across the street looking at a property with one family house on it. Now they're going to be looking at 3 separate homes with no property on it. My concern on this, again, this is further urbanizing Nassau County, Town of Hempstead. I fought very hard. I dug my heels in against that urbanization of these communities. And now what we're allowing is builders to go ahead and say, well, we're going to do this anyway. I've been here since 2 o'clock. This is the 3rd case of subdividing properties. It's getting to the point, when do we say stop? When do we allow people that want to come to our communities, which we welcome, to actually have property? And this is no longer, it doesn't become Queens. That's what we're suburbanites. We're used to grass. We're used to trees. It's all going. So by allowing this to be subdivided, we're taking away from all that. Mathematically, just reading the numbers on these houses, they don't make sense. The size of the houses, the framing, the doorways, the property size, it just doesn't make any sense. The numbers don't add up to this. So, and I'm not an architect, and I really wish that there was an architect here that we could ask these questions to of how he came to these numbers. So again, just my input, a community activist. This is not I actually just sent a text out to my board to get approval to speak. But to do this again would set a precedence that, anybody, any builder can come in and line their pockets and make, they make a lot of money on these houses. Right now, Nassau County is the place to be. Everybody's moving out of the city because they want that suburban. So I would strongly request that this board deny this application. 2 houses would be sufficient on this property. 3, I think, is just a bit too much. Thank you.
his letter, and you cannot get a building permit without meeting fire code, number one. Number two, he seems to think that the only people who are, and I'm going by the bottom of page 1, the only people who are allowed to get variances are homeowners, not builders who build homes throughout Nassau County. Now, I venture to say, the people here today, and I'm going to take a guess, usually you never make a statement or ask a question you don't know the answer to, but they didn't build their own homes. Some builder built that house, sold it to somebody who sold it to somebody else. And we live in a society where building homes, not houses, homes, is a noble profession. And I have no problem coming here and represent my client who is looking to build 3 new homes for 3 families looking to live in Elmont and probably become good residents of Elmont, send their kids to schools, shop in the stores, and be positives for the community. Second thing about Mr. Shamoons is he actually did us a pretty good favor. And if he was here, I would thank him. He probably would think I'm being sarcastic and do it, but I'm not being sarcastic and do it. In page 5 of 5, he did a rendition. He took photos of, I guess, what the property looked like, and then what it would look like with the 3 new homes built. If I may, I have a copy here, which I can, I'm not going to ask be marked because the board already has it. And I think myself, Mr. Bianco, and Mr. Nelson agree, that's a pretty good artist rendition of what it will look like. I kind of think it looks really nice. No, I don't kind of think, I think it looks really nice. You know, if you go up and down Evans Avenue, there are a couple of common things. First, unlike most of the areas of the town, we'll call it the younger areas of the town, the depths are 80 feet. As the board knows, it's very common throughout the town of Hempstead that the depths on properties are 100 feet. So that's the way the property is developed. So I don't really think depth is an issue there. And let's face it, people with modern homes. Years ago, my parents moved out to Elmont in 1951. You know, they wanted a house with plenty of grass, you know, lawn, get away from the city. Now when people move out, and this is not for me, it's coming from real estate experts. They want the island kitchen, they want the walk-in closet, they want the dining room. The one thing they don't want is to have to cut the lawns, maintain their property, whatever. This fits into the whole nature and character. And as noted on the radius map, across the street at the corner of Journal, you see there's a 26 and a 28 by 80. Adjacent, yes, it's an older house, is a 26 by 80. Down further north as you go to Hempstead Turnpike, you'll see 2 more 26 by 80s. On the corner across from the subject property is actually a property that's 18 by 80. Then you have Mr. If I pronounce your name wrong, I apologize. Mr. McManamy, his property is 26 by 80, and it's not the donut shop. Yeah, he got there first. He got his. Doesn't mean everybody else shouldn't get theirs. In fairness, everybody is treated equally. And Mr. Bianco, in looking to build his homes here, just looking to be treated as equally as the other people in the area who have homes on 26 by 100. The economic benefit is to him, will not have any detriment to the community. If anything, 3 new homes will make the community more desirable and will encourage people who live on 26 by 100s to improve their properties. I'm sorry, 26 by 80s. I'm used to that 100. To improve their properties accordingly. Because one of the things that they absolutely have the right to do right now is on their 26 by 80s is to build a house or improve the house to look very similar to what Mr. Bianco wants to do on the same block. That's my case. Oh, let me finish up. There was I apologize, one more thing, because if I don't, I'd be neglectful to do so. As I put on the record earlier, counsel to the Nassau County Planning Commission, and I do not participate in any of the matters that in which they weigh in. There is a recommendation for a modification from the Planning Commission. Again, I was not present at the time that it was made, and if I was present, I would have recused myself and stepped out of the room. But I believe the modification is suggesting that 2 homes instead of 3 homes be built. Again, we've gotten to the economics, we've shown the nature and character of the area. I would ask the board to consider all those factors and to issue a grant. And the grant would be, again, no basement entrance, nothing, all the usual and common conditions the board is known to impose to ensure that a property not be used as a multiple dwelling. Thank you.
I move the hearing be closed, the case placed on the decision calendar. When the board renders its decision, all those who signed in will receive a written notice.
Second. Aye.
You're welcome.
Ready? I'm ready. Let's go. What? No, my son's got soccer, so my husband has to leave work and take him to soccer.
Second? Yeah.
Aye.
Case 314-23, the Westbury Watson, Herman Perez, that case is adjourned to June 14th, 2 p.m. Case 315-23, Neil Lawrence, Chandra Indar, and Dharmendra. Do I have any discussion from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move that case 315 of 2023, the names at 200 Randall Avenue, mother-daughter residence, requesting their special exception. Move that the board grant this, subject to the usual mother-daughter conditions.
3 years?
Well, it's not
Whatever
really a
number of
3-year,
years.
it's a verification for 3 years, not a 3-year term.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Case 316 of 2023, Oceanside Fire District. Do I have any discussion? If not, do I have a motion?
I move case 316 of 2023, located at 88 Mott Street in Oceanside, be granted as requested.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Case 317 of 2023, I think we're going to hold that for any number of reasons. Cases 318 and 19 of 2023, J&A Realty, that case has been adjourned to August 9th at 2 p.m. Okay. Cases 320 and 321 of 2023, Areli Rodriguez. Do I have any discussion from the board? If not, do I have a motion? If I don't have a motion, do we have any discussion?
I move case 320 of 2023 and 321 of 2023. The 321 is to maintain a dwelling at 55 Prospect Street in Roosevelt. 320 of 23 is to subdivide another lot and construct a dwelling. I move that it should be granted.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that with the usual
Subdivision
Subdivision.
conditions, yes.
Do we want to say for 3 years or 5 years so that they have to come back to try?
No, do you
I'm
want
only kidding.
owner occupied with this too?
Owner occupied.
No, they're the ones who said no.
She didn't want to owner occupied.
She said she would not owner occupied now, but when she sells, she'll, I mean, I don't know if you can do this.
Yeah.
It would be
Upon
applicant.
sale or transfer.
wants- oh, Yes.
Permitted to maintain the parcels as rental units up until the time of transfer, at which it shall be occupied.
Yes.
Good. Is that okay?
Yes,
Who's going to second that motion?
I did.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed and abstentions? Okay. Cases 257, 58, and 59, we're going to hold those cases as we do not have enough people. Mrs. D'Amato will familiarize herself with all of the evidence that was submitted, as well as the testimony, and we might be able to take a vote on this in the near future. Case 200 of 2023, West Hempstead. Don't ask me to bias Medrash of West Hempstead. Do I have any discussion? If not, do I have a motion?
I move that case 200 of 2023 in West Hempstead at 549 David Street, special exception to proposed religious use and waiver of off-street parking, that the board grant a negative declaration under SEQA based upon the evidence and testimony.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
I move that case number 200 in 2023, the same applicants at the same location, be granted with the usual, if there are.
The 12 conditions that were
Oh,
submitted.
that's right, I forgot, yes.
12 conditions submitted by Mr. Vanessa.
Right, granted with conditions.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? That, I believe, oh, okay.
Because I thought this morning, I forgot to do it in the afternoon morning calendar. It was that two-family case, Beecham 190 LLC, case
Right,
23,
right.
23. Board's not grants permanently. I was wondering if you want to make a modification to grant it 5 years temporary, as is the case what we usually do for 2 families, or keep it permanent.
They're side by side. How are you gonna, you can't grant it other than permanently.
For two-family dwellings,
They're two side-by-side dwellings. So how do you grant that temporarily? What do you say? If you know, we have to review it every 5 years, otherwise you have to remove half the house, half the building? That's ridiculous.
Take away
Well, take away what?
granted permanently, it just was not usual course.
I don't think we normally do that.
It's also not the usual construction of a two-family dwelling.
That was not an issue, but we can put that. I don't know.
Why don't you call the applicant's attorney and see if they'll agree to that? And we'll take it up next week. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? Any opposed? I oppose. I'd like to stay forever.